going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk. This is episode 420. For any smokers that may be watching, that means 420 straight episodes, no days off, no chaser, no breaks. Shout out to everybody who's been tuning in as of recent, but shout out to everybody who's been tuning in since day one. Much appreciated. All of the support, all of the feedback. Had a really good conversation, really timely, energetic conversation on Clubhouse today. Really powerful energy there, and got a lot of really great feedback just on the virtue of just the accomplishment of taking it this far. You know, sometimes we should be able to bask in our own efforts and acknowledge ourselves for our progress. So I gladly took heed to that, and just sort of reflected on just the last 400 and something episodes. For those who may be new or just joining via YouTube, I started this April of last year, April 1st to be exact, of last year. And it was originally done due to the pandemic. Everything was shutting down. The public was shutting down. People couldn't access counseling, therapists. That everything was haywire. Everything was shifted to there's all these different adjustments people had to make. People's global events, national events were descending on people. And every April, for those of you who are familiar with me, my mom's passed, and her birthday is April 30th. So every April, I dedicate something new to honor her legacy, what she's meant to me by virtue of what I have to give, what gifts that I have, and putting myself in a space to be able to give those to people who really need it in the most timely fashion. So I dedicated the month of April to just going live, IG live every night. It was only going to be a 30-day thing. But due to some really awesome feedback, people wanting me to continue. And I can say honestly, halfway through the process, I already knew I wanted to keep it going because, a lot of people were able to gain from it. And it's dating and relationship talk, but in the context of mental health, in the context of life purpose, in the context of physical health, incorporating all of the elements that I believe happiness to be comprised of, because the goal is happiness. The goal isn't to have a person, because we can go out and get somebody. We can have a relationship. We can have a mate. We can have a partner. But as we know from our relationship histories, all partners aren't the best for us. All partners are not the best for our growth. All partnerships don't need to occur. Some don't. So it's with this platform that I help to breathe life and to hopefully awaken and provide strategies for happiness, which would include a mate if you so wish, right? And so we talked through the context of some of the issues and barriers that can impede us from being in the right space to form healthy partnerships and healthy relationships. And people pleasing is one of those things, one of those barriers, and that's what tonight is about. So shout out to Latasia. She wanted me to check in on this topic. Salute to you. You at work, probably suffering. But work late. Get your money. Sneak and watch it then or something. But I know she's gonna be checking out the replay. But much appreciated. And I'll say that people pleasing is a byproduct of a deeper issue. And I wanted to discuss that tonight. People pleasing for me, just kind of how I view it, is that, first of all, I know a lot of people who identify either as people pleasers, or people acknowledge them, or call them people pleasers, right? So let's define terms before we get into the topic. And what's going on, Dawn? Shout out to you. So, what is people pleasing, right? What is that? Uh, People pleasing is a behavior pattern that includes you doing for others, sacrificing for others, supporting for others, nourishing others, boosting others, motivating others, supporting, helping, guiding other people, and becoming who anybody else needs you to be, despite the sacrifice that it takes, despite the fact that they don't reciprocate the energy that you're providing. So it's giving in an imbalanced way, and it's changing yourself in an imbalanced way. So it's rendering yourself under the control of other people who have something that you want, whether that's friendship, or whether that's uh, the promise of romantic love, right? So it's an unequal exchange, because you're doing all of the actions, the giving of the energy, the support, all of these different things, and you're not respected in return. You're not supported in return, and that person is not doing the same things for you. So why do we people please? Why do we try to please other people? Why do we have the behavior pattern that leads us to want to become whoever other people need us to be? First of all, it can be very confusing, because you may not think that you have, or well, you may not have a clearly defined identity, for one, because a people pleaser doesn't necessarily have a lot of clearly defined boundaries and standards. Because to be a people pleaser means that you'll do whatever it takes to make somebody else feel happy about you, and about your characteristics, about your image, or have good things to say about you. So if you do anything for the approval of somebody else, that can be defined multiple ways by multiple people. It's whatever hoops that person wants you to jump through. So that means that you'll have different facets of your persona. That means you can shape shift. You might have 4 different accents you roll with. You might be you might be code switch 15 different frequencies, that just depending on who you're talking to, depending on who you're interacting with, and depending on what you think will up your value in the eyes of somebody else, who again gives you the promise or potential of approval and love based on either platonic friendship or romantic interactions, or even maybe a work situation. It can permeate into different environments. So tonight's topic is, where does it come from? The way I view people pleasing is as a byproduct of abandonment. So if we trace ourselves back, because again, these behavior patterns don't just show up. There's usually an inciting event, a striking event, an emotionally charged event that changes our mindset and makes us almost compulsively chase something that we feel like we were robbed of in that particular moment. So if we think of abandonment, we think of the parental structure, we think of the family environment. Was the dad out? Did the dad leave? Did the mom leave? Or was there internal abandonment? where the abandonment of, okay, you may have a two-parent household that you grew up in, but you didn't get much attention or much love or much value or much feeling of worth from your parents. You were just kind of invisible to them, right? Maybe from a neglectful standpoint. You can have that. Thirdly, you can have abandonment by virtue of death, by virtue of passing. And this is something that I've observed as well. Like I had to categorize this in play, because sometimes we think of abandonment, we think, okay, this parent, my dad left or my mom left, and I never, they kind of just went on and lived their life, and so I can live with the void, but I can still have hate for that person. So there's like a negative connotation or a hatred connected to the person who voluntarily left you. Now, if somebody passed away, that's not necessarily, in most cases, it's not a voluntary thing. So there's not hate involved, but there's still a sense of abandonment, right? So that can be life-changing. And so, especially if it happens at a young age, because that sets off a trajectory of you forming your personality around pleasing other people, morphing into who people need you to be for their approval. Because, if a passing happens later in life, usually we have the faculties to process it properly. But if those things happen as a child, we're not mature enough to process those things. So here's how abandonment ties in, right? If you're abandoned, you are hypersensitive to abandonment. So you are looking for it, you're sensitive to it, you're watching it, you may be trying to avoid it, but running right back into it, right? So when you're abandoned, you feel the sting of the profound lack of control that we can have in certain situations, especially as a child. Children feel a lack of control anyway, but it's usually not painful until something major happens, like a parent is there and then out. And we need our parents a lot when we're growing up. So from that standpoint, feeling that lack of control, that sting from the lack of control, we watch the event, we say, no matter how good I was, no matter how good my grades were, no matter how good my behavior was, this person still left. I had no control over them leaving. So what does the mind say then? I'll never feel that again if I exert control over the people I meet. I'm not going to let anybody abandon me again. It's irrational, yes, but fear is irrational. So what becomes the behavior pattern? When this person gets into friendships, relationships, their goal is to do whatever it takes to keep that person with them, to keep their image, reputation, everything intact, and to keep that relationship, whether that relationship is toxic or not. And this is where the irrationality comes into play. We could be holding on tight to some toxic motherfuckers. We could hold on tight to the worst circle, the worst friend circle ever in life. Holding on tight to them terrible ass friends. I'll be here forever. Chucky say, friends to the end. We together in hate and jealousy underneath. Love it. Because of the irrationality, because we are sensitive, so sensitive to abandonment that we will try to prevent it even from people we should be abandoned from. Some of y'all exes, y'all should have been let them roll. But again, with fear operating in the background, this is something that has to occur. You have to keep those friendships because you're exerting control that you did not have in the past, and you still don't have it. That's the wake-up call. It's not like, okay, as a child, I couldn't prevent it, so now I'm going to prevent it. You still can't prevent it as an adult. These are the facts of life. But again, fear will keep you being a people pleaser, because that tends to be the irrational mind says, I can control, I can keep somebody from leaving me because I'm gonna give them everything they want. You need money. I know you borrowed money every day, but I got you. You want me to come help you with something you don't want to pay me? I got you. Even if these so-called toxic friends do something crazy to you and you're the victim, they can flip it, manipulate it, because y'all, people pleasers are prone to manipulation. They can flip it, make it seem like you the person that did something wrong. And now you find, as the people pleaser, you find yourself having sit downs and talks and apologizing when you were the one who was done wrong. The spin, they keep you in this emotional tug of war because they know what you want. You're trying to keep this relationship intact at all costs. And when people feel that, they don't respect you. And that's where you go wrong, because the respect isn't there. And a lot of times the conundrum of the people pleaser is, I've done all of this. I've been over backwards thousands of times for this person that I've dated, and they still cheated or they still left. And you can't fathom this, right? Where's the loyalty? Or even in friendships, you've been there time and time again. Somebody died, you was with them, holding them down, encouraging them, talking 3, 4 in the morning, sending them stuff, sending gifts and doing this, that, and the third. And the next thing you know, they talk bad behind your back and cut you out of events and don't even talk to you like that. And you like, who was that? Where did that come from? And you can't fathom it because you think, because you're doing all this nice stuff, that nobody should do anything foul to you. And you're right, nobody should, but at the same time, it's an imbalance. You're doing way too much and not requiring these people to match your efforts as a friend or as a romantic partner. And in return, you run up on somebody in the street, you hand them $1,000 and they ain't got to do no work for it. Use a mark. And the thought would be, they should reciprocate, or I just gave you $1,000. Least you could do is, wash the car window or come to mow the lawn or something. They like, man, you gave it first. There was no exchange. There was no agreement or anything like that. So, and even in an agreement, if you are front loading with giving, or if you are someone who can be twisted in that fashion to feel blame, or you have an exposed guilt button, a sensitive exposed guilt button that somebody that's right over here that somebody can just press at any moment and disarm you and cause you to be in a position to apologize, to give emotionally, to people can turn those tables on you. So in essence, what's up, Erica? In essence, it is a compulsive behavior style that is seeking to prevent abandonment from platonic friendships or from romantic partnerships. And therein lies the issue, because you cannot prevent yourself through action from somebody. You can't prevent somebody from abandoning you. So the real thing about it is, we have to accept the lack of control externally and create some control internally. Because let's be honest, if people pleasing is a is a compulsive behavior that you have, there's not much control internally. You can view a situation and be like, that was foul, but you're still calling this person back. You're still easily brought back into the fold. You're still going to be giving something to them and giving them time and effort and support next week. So that's a lack of control, and you are a slave to, the threat of abandonment. And I say we can all work against fear. F that abandonment, because again, who are you scared of abandoning you? Most of the people that you have attracted over time are leeches anyway. Most of the people that people pleasing brings you is people taking, or taker people or whatever. Like you're attracting takers to you, and people who don't necessarily have your best interests at heart. They just want what you have, the type of energy that you bring about, and what benefits you bring about. So that gives the illusion of I have a lot of friends. That's a safe space. If I have a lot of people who are connected to me, that makes me feel less abandoned. The problem is you have a rack of people who are only there because of how much you front load your pleasing behaviors. Who wouldn't be there? If somebody was outside giving away free massage, some massage therapist out of work or something was giving away free massages outside, you think that person wouldn't have no line? As stressed out as people are, you wouldn't think there wouldn't be a line out there. Now, that doesn't mean that these people would be great customers or that they would pay if that person was in a established business. But hey, the sign said free. That means the bar is low. There is no prerequisite. There is no entry fee. There is no exchange. There is come, get it off, whatever. And that could go into the romantic sense too. You know what I'm saying? If we're talking sexually, some people may just want to connect with you in that fashion or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, the goal is to clearly define how we want our relationships to look, how we want them to go, but also to acknowledge and have the self-awareness to be able to understand that this comes from a long timeline. This comes, in most cases, this comes from the childhood environment and what was cultivated there, and the core beliefs that were cultivated there, and that have led to this type of behavior being something that's so common to you. And when the behavior is this common and has this much of a rotation and a pattern, it can be difficult to stop. When you start to try different things or different strategies or stop acting in that fashion, you're going to get what's called emotional reasoning. That fear is going to come back up, and it's going to try to, by virtue of making you feel bad, feel shame, feel guilt, right, for not being there for certain people, for not doing what you're supposed to do for your friends, etc., for not being loyal, for choosing yourself over them. All that's going to start coming up because that's the fail safe. That's the alarm system saying, hey, you getting out of pocket. We told you from back then, this is how we move. We move shook. Fear has had such a control over you since those inciting events that this is just how you operate. And like I told you, core beliefs are something that the personality forms around, especially if it happens at a young age. So you may think this is just you. I'm just people pleasing. That's just me. No. It's a byproduct that can be changed, that can be reversed, that can be balanced out. But it takes incremental work, and it takes working against fear and a conscious effort to balance yourself out and create a sense of peace. And it's all workable. All these categories I talk about, this is what I do. I coach people to eliminate that fear mechanism that's operating in the background. So please get in tune with me. Definitely be sure to follow me on Instagram at Happiness Decoded 101. And my link tree is there. Also in the description box, my link tree is there. If you want to connect with me in any way, make sure you click that link. All the options will pop up. Just see what you want to do. You can set up a free Zoom consult. with me as well. I do one-on-one coaching. I also have a virtual wellness platform for you as well. So, definitely tap in. Again, the link is in the description box if you want to connect, because, it can be very difficult to maneuver through that fear mechanism. It can be difficult to do because it's had such a hold on you across this time. You may not have a reference point where it wasn't controlling your behaviors, and there's a good chance that there's been a lot of cycles based on this type of behavior, relationship after relationship, friendship after friendship, all of these different things being pain points, more emotional wounds opening up. And that's part of the problem as well, because when we get hurt, relationship, friendships hurt, we go try to get another person as the Band-Aid. We try to fill in the void with another person, bring another person in, cover that up, and they make another cut. And damn, all right, broke up with that. Okay, I got to put somebody over here, over here. It's an endless compulsive cycle. I always say you can't heal old wounds with new knives. You cannot be in a situation where you're bringing somebody else in as a healing mechanism, and they're toxic as well. So they're going to create another wound for you. And friendships as well. So we got to clean house. There ain't no two ways about it, because chances are, if you're a people pleaser, you've conditioned people over time to where your friends, your interconnected people, everybody that's around you in close proximity may be, and this may or may not be true, but most likely there's a lot of people that are connected to you that are there for what you can do for them. They are there for how you can help them, how you can please them, and they know how to operate, and they have been conditioned by the way that you have treated them, and what you have not checked, what you have not addressed, what boundaries that you did not have. And this is a process. This is something that has to be rectified and that has to be dealt with, because of the fact that if not, you will end up in some situations where you will not have a clear idea if the people around you are there for you or they're there for what you do. And that's another thing. Your value is not in what you can do. You should the love that you get should be unconditional. It should not be for what you can do for somebody else, because that puts you in a perpetual state of having to do. And that's what people pleasing is. You feel as though you have to constantly do, and you have to constantly be there, and you have to constantly make sure that that person is not angry with you or doesn't want to leave you or doesn't want to dissolve the friendship, because when those feelings get low, you get sensitive, you get predictive of abandonment, and you swoop in and try to save the day. But that's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort, includes a lot of burnout. And it's not a way that you have to live. It's not a way that you should have to live. And it may take a process of slowly examining and clearing out, some people that may have been around a long time, but are conditioned to your old self. You gotta recognize this. If you want to reach your peak level, you have to know that the people you keep around you have to be interconnected and reciprocal to the emerging self, the self that you are creating, the self that is emerging, the person that is growing. And as you grow, you aren't going to act the same. You're going to cut out irrational habits. You're going to cut out fearful habits. You're going to cut out injured and unhealed habits. Once you start to do that, your circle will start to look different. People will fall off mysteriously. Some people will challenge you, try to say stuff or be hostile with you for changing your behaviors and prioritizing yourself. You got to understand, doing the best for you, everybody ain't a fan of that. Even people to this day that might be part of your circle for 10, 20, 30 years. Doesn't matter how long somebody been riding. It's can they and are they equipped for the next part of the journey? Because that part of the journey may include some behavioral changes, and those changes will be the best for you, not the best for everybody else, not the best for the fear voice, but the best for you and the best for your process. So thank you guys again. Be sure to share the broadcast. Be sure to subscribe if you are new. If you're watching, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, if you do want to get in tune, you have questions, you want to tap in and get some help, some strategies, be sure to click the link in the description box so you can get in contact and we can start working. So thank you guys for tuning in. As usual, much appreciated. Sending all you guys energy right now, good vibes, positive vibes. The weather's on point. So just sending you guys blessings for real. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night.